The hull was still burning when I heard the cry. I dropped flat behind a slab of broken metal as another explosion ripped through the crashed ship above me. Sparks rained down like fire from a broken sky. My name is Daniel Cross, and I was not supposed to be here. I was a salvage pilot, sent to strip parts from a dead alien freighter, not to walk into a war zone. But the moment I heard that sound, thin and desperate, cutting through the smoke, I forgot every rule I had ever followed. It was not a machine sound. It was not static or metal grinding on metal. It was a cry, small and broken, the kind that makes your chest tighten before your mind even understands why. I moved through the wreck fast, boots crunching over shattered glass and scorched wiring. Red emergency lights flickered above me, painting the corridor in flashes of blood and shadow. Somewhere behind me, the ship groaned like it was ready to fold in on itself. I did not have much time. I turned a corner and stopped cold. Curled inside a broken container, surrounded by shattered glass and wisps of smoke, was a creature I had only seen in old Alliance files. A young dragon. Its scales were a deep shade of copper, still soft, still growing. Its wings were folded tight against its body, trembling. 4 golden eyes stared up at me, wide with fear. It was a Dravith. I knew the name only because of a briefing I had barely paid attention to months ago. Their kind lived far beyond human space, in colonies most explorers never reached. This one should not have been here, alone, trapped in a crumbling wreck that was moments from becoming its grave. Another blast rocked the ship. Metal screamed above us. Dust rained from the ceiling. I did not think. I just moved. I broke the container open with the edge of my tool and pulled the creature into my arms. It weighed almost nothing, all bone and thin muscle, but it clung to my jacket with a strength that surprised me. Its claws dug into the fabric like it was afraid I would vanish if it let go. I ran. The corridor ahead collapsed just as I passed through it, chunks of the ceiling crashing down where I had been standing seconds earlier. I threw myself sideways, shielding the creature with my body as debris slammed into my shoulder. Pain shot through my arm, but I did not stop moving. Stopping meant dying, and now it meant more than just my own life. I reached the escape hatch just as the ship gave one final, deafening groan. I dove through it, rolling onto the frozen ground outside, the creature still locked against my chest. Behind us, the wreck folded in on itself in a storm of fire and smoke, throwing heat across the icy plain like a dying sun. I lay there for a moment, breathing hard, my ears ringing. Then I looked down. The creature looked back at me, still shaking, but alive. I carried it to my transport ship, a small vessel meant for hauling scrap metal, not living cargo. I laid it on a folded blanket near the heater vent and checked it over as best I could. Burns along one wing, a cut near its shoulder, exhaustion so deep its whole body trembled even in sleep. I did not know its name. I did not know if it even understood language, but I stayed beside it through the night, keeping the heater running long after my ship's systems warned me about power drain. I did not care. I was not going to let it freeze after everything it had survived. By morning, it was awake, watching me with those 4 golden eyes, unblinking, cautious. I offered it a piece of dried meat from my supplies. It sniffed it, then looked at me before eating, as if asking permission. I nodded, and it ate slowly, still watching me the whole time like it expected me to vanish or turn on it. Over the next 2 days, something changed between us. It stopped flinching when I moved. It started following me around the small cabin of my ship, wings dragging slightly from the injury, but its eyes brighter, more alert. I called it Ash, because of the ash-covered ground where I had found it burning into memory. On the 3rd night, while I was repairing a broken wire panel, I heard a small voice behind me. "Dad." I turned so fast I dropped my tool. Ash was sitting there, staring at me, its small chest rising and falling with the effort of forming a word that should not have belonged to its language, its species, its world. I later learned, through the wreck's flight logs, that the ship had once carried a human researcher who spent months teaching young Dravith basic words during long voyages. That researcher was gone now, but the word had stayed, buried in Ash's memory like a seed waiting for the right moment to grow. I do not know how to explain what happened inside me in that moment. It felt like something cracking open, some wall I had built over years of loneliness in deep space, alone in ship after ship, moving cargo instead of building a life. I had never had a family, I had never had anyone waiting for me, and now this small, fragile creature, who had lost everything, was looking at me like I was the only steady thing left in its world. I sat down beside it and, for the first time in years, I let myself feel something other than distance. The trouble started 3 days later. My ship's communication system picked up a distress signal from a nearby patrol vessel, warning me that Alliance scouts were searching the crash site for survivors, specifically any surviving Dravith, which were considered valuable for research due to their rare biology. My stomach turned cold. I knew what research meant in places far from any law that cared about small, frightened creatures. I set my ship to silent running and changed course away from the patrol route, but within an hour, a voice crackled through my comm. "This is Alliance Vessel Kestrel 6, calling unidentified transport. You are ordered to stop and prepare for inspection." I looked at Ash, curled near the heater, ears twitching at the sound of the voice. Its eyes found mine, uncertain, sensing the tension in the air the way animals often do before humans even notice it themselves. I could turn her in. I could hand her over, follow protocol, avoid any trouble with the Alliance. It would be simple. It would be safe. I ignored the call and pushed my engines harder instead. The Kestrel 6 locked onto my ship's trail within minutes. Warning shots streaked past my hull, lighting up the dark space outside my window. My ship was not built for combat. It was built for hauling scrap, slow and heavy, no defenses worth mentioning. I dove toward a nearby asteroid field, weaving between jagged rocks as blasts continued behind me. My hands were steady on the controls, years of piloting kicking in through pure instinct, but my mind was screaming the entire time. One wrong move and both Ash and I would be nothing but debris floating in the dark. A blast clipped my rear thruster. The ship jolted violently, alarms blaring through the cabin. Ash let out a frightened cry, pressing herself against my leg as I fought to keep the ship steady. "I am not leaving you," I said, my voice sharper than I meant it to be, though it was meant for both of us. I cut power to non-essential systems and redirected everything into the engines, pushing the ship through a narrow gap between two massive rocks. The Kestrel 6, larger and less agile, could not follow through the same path. I heard its engines roar as it tried to adjust, but by then, I had already vanished into the dense cover of the asteroid field, my ship's signature lost among the drifting rocks. Minutes passed in silence, my heart pounding louder than the ship's engines. I did not slow down until I was certain we were no longer being followed. When I finally cut the engines and let the ship drift quietly among the stars, I turned to check on Ash. She was curled tightly against my side, trembling, her small claws gripping my sleeve. "It is over," I whispered, kneeling beside her. "You are safe now." She looked up at me, and for the first time since I had found her, I saw something other than fear in her eyes. I saw trust. In the days that followed, I made a decision that would change the rest of my life. I abandoned my old contract, sold my transport ship's cargo hold modifications for enough credits to buy a small home on a quiet outer colony, far from Alliance patrols and research stations. It was not a place many people knew about, a small farming settlement, built along a river under twin moons, where questions were rarely asked and strangers were welcomed without suspicion. I built a life there with Ash. She grew quickly, her wings healing fully within a few months, her copper scales deepening into a rich, gleaming bronze as she matured. She learned more words, more phrases, though she always came back to that one word first, every single morning, greeting me before I even opened my eyes. "Dad?" People in the settlement were curious about her, of course. A dragon walking beside a human was not something anyone had seen before. But as months passed into years, they grew used to the sight of us together, walking along the river at sunset, her wings occasionally stretching wide to catch the wind, my hand resting on her scaled shoulder. I never regretted the choice I made that night in the burning wreck, or the moment I ignored the Alliance's call to stop. I had once been a man with no family, drifting through space with nothing waiting for me at the end of each journey. Now, every single day, something waited for me. Someone called me Dad, and meant it with her whole heart. That was enough to build an entire life around. And when people asked me why I gave up everything for a creature not even from my own species, I told them the truth, simple and complete. She was alone, and so was I. Then she called me Dad, and neither of us ever had to be alone again.